We are Cactus Wrestling. Make sure you hit that like button and subscribe so you don't miss out on future videos.
Cactus Wrestling is now available on Spotify and Amazon. And don't forget to check us out on Etsy for all of your Cactus Wrestling apparel needs. Welcome back to Cactus Wrestling. Today we have more rankings videos. 165 pounds for the 24-25 season. And I gotta say, this is probably the most
Top heavy. The toppest heavy.
I was gonna say boring, maybe? Boring.
Yeah, I think that like outside of a few names, you're like, oh, that guy, yeah, he still wrestles. I don't think this is gonna be like the 165 of last season, I'll tell you that.
No, 165 last year was probably the most
Stacked.
stacked, and this is probably the least stacked
Yeah.
going into this year.
Yep.
So let's just dive right into it, and we'll look at the rankings. Number one, no surprises here. Mitchell Messenbrink will win his first national title this year. I feel very confident putting money to bet on that if I was to bet money on that.
I really think the only thing stopping Mitchell Messerbrink this year is this if he has like a serious injury that would prevent him from wrestling. Um, I really believe watching the NCAA's last year, he thought he was going to force overtime with David Carr, and that's why he was like just wrestling wrestling on the edge, and like just hand fighting instead of taking a shot. Um, and the way it looked last year, the way his pace was getting after it, I think he had David Carr kind of on the ropes. Um, so I feel very confident that Mitchell Messenbrink is going to win this year. I would go as far to say that he's my Hodge favorite right now.
I would agree with that.
I think we'll get to a Hodge video down the line, but I also think that Carter versus Parker, that could be a Hodge determining match right there.
Unless
But
they split matches throughout the
yeah.
year. Not that they would really wrestle during the year, actually, come to think of it.
Yeah, I don't think they see each other.
Yeah, they don't see each other.
But with Mitchell's insane, just ridiculous pace and his ability to want to get bonus points and not keep matches close and continue to get after it, I think we're going to see a huge tilt in his favor for Hodge. Um,
For the, I was kind of surprised with the comments on the 57-pound video. Everyone was saying, no, it's really Myers' year. Myers leaps and bounds ahead of everyone else. I feel
yeah,
that way at this weight class with Messenbrink compared to
yeah.
everyone else. We've seen what he's done against Caliendo multiple times. He's always bonused them.
Oh my
The
God, it's
only
not even. Yeah,
person, the only person I could see potentially throwing a wrench is if Sammy Sasso is one back to form that he was at 149. But
mm-hmm.
that you can't predict that. There's no chance.
I
Dude might
mean,
not even be able to walk right now.
well, that's what I mean. Like Sammy Sasso isn't coming back from like, oh, like he tore an ACL, or he has a really sprained meniscus, or shoulder surgery. The dude got shot. Like that is not an easy injury to come back from. Like that's some serious damage. You don't know how he's holding up. He's going up 2 weight classes. Um, Sasso has an incredible career, but I feel like they're just kind of wheeling him across the finish line at this point. Um, if I was Sammy, I would just kind of ride off into the sunset and be like, look, like I did a lot for Ohio State.
Yeah,
And
two-time runner-up.
yeah, I mean, the guy had an incredible career, move on to freestyle, become an RTC coach, whatever you want to do. I think that you're right. He can be a serious landmine in this field, but there's so many things to consider.
Yeah, and we'll have to see if he even makes a starting lineup. We don't even
Yeah,
know.
for sure.
We have
Oh
no
my
idea
gosh,
where he's
yeah.
at. So we're putting him at number three, being optimistic, just giving credit where credit's
Yeah, credit's
due
due. Oh
for
yeah.
his resume. But we skipped over Mikey Caliendo. He is the definitive number two, made the semifinals last year and got worked by Caliendo.
By Messenberg.
Oh yeah, Caliendo got messed up by
Yeah, yeah.
Messenberg. Yeah,
But
yeah.
again, like, and to your point, they wrestled multiple times last year, and every time Mitchell Messenbrink went out there and just beat the brakes off of him. It was never a time where you're like, okay, like, can Caliendo squeak this one out and steal a match? Mitchell Messenbrink didn't just have his number; he worked him every time, and he's
Yeah,
coming in
yeah,
number 2 guy.
yeah. Number 4 is Hunter Garvin. He was a freshman last year. He All-Americaned. He had some solid wins, but he also had a 12 losses. I mean, this is what we're talking about. Like, there's only 4 returning All-Americans at this weight class. A guy with 12 losses from a year ago is the number 4 ranked guy. Like, what does that speak to the depth of the weight class?
I think Mitchell Messenger is going to run amok.
Yeah. Yeah. Peyton Hall, he is a senior, 2-time All-American at this point. He's a guy that might be able to like keep a match close. He always gave Keegan O'Toole tough, close
Yeah,
matches.
he's hard to score on. He actually, I believe he was wrestling Keegan and was beating Keegan at one point last
He
year.
was, yeah.
Where I remember that match and I was like, what the heck's going on? Because Keegan looked untouchable until then, and then we obviously saw, lost in NCAA's to David Carr. Um, Still had a great year, but it was that chink in the armor, and that was the first time like I really was like Peyton Hall, pretty impressive guy. Not just this good wrestler anymore, entering that great tier.
Yeah. Cam Amin, this is an interesting one. We have him at number 6, senior, now at
Yeah,
Oklahoma State. You love Cam Amin.
it's tough because like I can recognize that Cam is a good wrestler. I can also recognize that I don't like his style, and I don't really gel with the Amin family. I think they're kind of whiny. I've seen matches where I'm like, that's a little dirty, that's a little flagrant. That's kind of towing the line. And then I've seen them make complaints. And one thing that sticks out to me, and again, it's not Cam, so I can't hold it against him specifically, but when Miles wrestled against Aaron Brooks, and Aaron Brooks holding on for, I think he's holding on to a leg or something, or he's just getting ridden out. Whatever it was, Miles Amin is like elbowing him in the back of the head. And it's like, dude, like you're way down on points. The match is over at this point. You're a defending Olympic bronze, like win and lose with class. And I feel like the Amin family's great wrestlers, but I don't typically think of like classy guy with them. And so because of that, I do not like the Amins or Cam. And I'm not even sure how he's going to do at Oklahoma State.
Everyone always says like, oh, the transfer effect, it's a new coach, but whenever
Yeah,
we really seen that make a big, big difference,
yeah,
it's
for
it's
sure.
really few and far between, I think. The only thing I think of off the top of my head is Seth Gross going to South Dakota State, winning a
Yeah,
national title.
yeah,
But yeah, I mean, 3-time All-American, round of 12 last year. He did somewhat keep it close against Missile Brink at nationals, but he didn't wrestle.
yeah.
He
And I
didn't do
think
anything.
we've been seeing a lot of that from Cam. Is just defensively keeping matches close. And that's kind of like an old guy wrestling thing. Like I do that with my younger high school guys where I'm like, I'm tired. I'll win by one or something. And I think that Cam Amin's he's got miles on him at this point. I mean, he's been wrestling for a long time. And if you told me 3 years ago that Cam Amin was going to be 16 and almost 10 last year, I would have laughed at you and I'd go, dude, he's one of the top wrestlers in America.
Yeah.
But I think he's got a hard fall off. Um, I might not even, but again, it's tough because this weight class is not very talented this year.
Yeah,
No
it's like
offense.
who else? Who else can you put up higher?
That's it. You look at his resume and then you look at last season and you say, okay, well now he's transferring. So how much can he change? In the David Taylor, type of wrestling. But then you look at guys behind him and you say, okay, but he is better than them. So sixth isn't unreasonable.
Number 7, we have Julian Ramirez, 3-time round of 12 guy. He beat David Carr last season in season, so we know he has the capability for an upset, but he can never put it together at nationals, as we've seen. Blood round 3 years in a row, only 4 losses last year. But again, I don't see this guy making an impact at the top half here. Maybe he can squeak out like a 7th or 8th place, but I don't see it.
I have to say the same. I think Ramirez has flashes a lot in the season, but then when he ducked David Carr in the duel, I said, okay, so did he get a legit beat David Taylor, or did he just kind of like steal a win and he's going to try to defend that?
Yeah, I
Um,
forgot about that. That left a sour
yeah,
so. And Mike Ray was like, "Oh, I'm always going to put my wrestlers first. It wasn't a duck, that type of thing." But come on.
yeah, when half of his lineup sat out in that duel, and even and Vito did sit out in another duel. Like the whole those duels that weekend for Mike Gray was a lot of like defending, and we did find out Vito was actually hurt and dealing with some injuries, hence why he redshirted. Yeah, I mean not redshirted, but decided to forego going 57 kilo. Um, but yeah, I didn't mess with that at all. Didn't vibe with that. Here's a name though, at number 8 that I'm excited for.
Yeah, Bo Mantanona, he was behind Camamine. Well,
Yeah.
redshirting, really.
Mhm.
Really up talented recruit for Michigan. I think he's going to have a splashy year
Yeah.
to the effect that Sergio Ledley had for Michigan last year as a freshman.
Yeah, that's
Um,
fair.
he's a tall, lanky wrestler, scrambles with the best of them, puts points on the board. I would love to see him wrestle Camamine.
What's interesting about Bo, like, followed his career throughout high school, didn't have the crazy redshirt year that I thought he might have had. Like there was no one that he beat that I was like, oh, nah, nice win, nice win. He took the losses that you'd expect. He won the matches you'd expect, but as a redshirt, you want to see him close the gap with some of those top guys, and he didn't. He got bonused by a lot of these top guys. I think Dean Hamady pinned him, I think, twice when they wrestled. And I could be wrong. Check Wrestle Stat for that, but I know he pinned him at least once.
Well, he did pin Caleb Fish though.
Yeah, but in fairness, I feel like Caleb Fish started off the year pretty solid and was a big name, and then by the time the year ended, you're like I remember Mitchell Messenbrink beating Caleb Fish, and I'm like, oh, great, great. But then Caleb Fish didn't have the most solid season that I was expecting for him, so it made the win seem not as big.
Yeah. But I mean, Mantanona, he lost to Bryce Hepner 12-10 in the Ohio State duel. He lost to
Yeah,
Mikey Caliendo 9-4. So he's already keeping matches close with some good
he's a goer.
guys.
But looking at Mikey Caliendo, not a huge bonus guy. We know he doesn't go out and score a ton of points. I wondered, does he say, okay, a 9-4 win is enough, or was Mantanona coming on at the end?
Right.
But yeah, definitely excited guy to look forward to. Uh, and looking at number 9, another guy I'm excited for, Terrell Barraclaw.
Yeah, I mean, don't think he's gonna be like upsetting Mitchell Messenbrink. I mean, there's a reason
No,
he's been sitting on the pine
yeah,
the past 4 years at Penn State, but it's nice to see. Okay, now we've done a video on this past
mhm,
is like how good are Penn State's backups really? Like would they
yeah,
all American? Now we'll actually get to see because Terrell Bearclaw's transferred out to Utah Valley, and we'll see if he's is the real deal that Carter Strachey was saying he was.
yeah. I was still surprised he went to Utah Valley. You know, not that it's a bad school or anything. I just thought that Terrell Bearclaw, being a Penn State guy, having some quality matches that he had, having a very close match with Mitchell Messenbrink earlier in the season, and then seeing Mitchell go on and do what he did, I thought there'd be bigger interest from bigger schools. But maybe he wanted to say like, look, I want to be the guy. I want to be,
Well, I
you
think he's
know,
from there. He's from
yeah,
that area.
exactly. He is. He's, he made a point to say he's returning home. Um, so I hope Terrell Barraclough does well. I think it'd be awesome. Um, round of 12 guy, blood round would be, pretty great. Maybe he beats a chamomile. Who knows?
Yeah, that'd be crazy. Number 10, Carrot Thompson, Ohio national qualifier last year. And again, if you look at the rest of the guys that we have on this list, none of them are round of 16 or better. Like these are all national qualifiers, but you expect a little bit higher accolades for top 12 rankings, top
Mhm.
16 rankings. We have number 11, Nico Ruiz, freshman from Arizona State. Now, I remember watching his match because you were touting Mitchell Messenbrink, and it was his first tournament. He wrestled Nico Ruiz,
Yeah,
who
it's
was
close.
redshirting, and Mitchell Messenbrink absolutely uh he got gassed.
Yeah,
It was
because
it was unbelievable. He shut down. Like we don't see that. This is what Mitchell Messenbrink does to other guys. That's what Nico Ruiz, I guess. I don't know if like Messenbrink just tired himself out, but we
or
were
was
like
sick or something. I
so
do remember that.
unimpressed. We were
Yeah,
so
because
unimpressed after watching that.
you guys who text me like, "This is your guy that you think is going to go so far this year." Really, he almost, he had a barn burner with with Nico Ruiz, and
Yeah.
I'm like, "Yeah, we'll see." And I'm in my head, I'm like, "Crap, did I like bet on the wrong horse?" kind of thing.
But
But
maybe Nico Ruiz is really that tough.
well,
I
that's
mean,
exactly it. And Arizona State, as much crap as we give them sometimes, me and Mike especially, Jack not as bad, but they still are great coaches. They're a great program. I mean, there's a reason that WrestleStat has him as the number 9 guy already.
yeah.
So
And
it should be pretty exciting.
the score of that match, by the way, for those who didn't see it, Messenbrink won that 14-10. So
Yeah,
it was I
one
mean,
of
it
his
wasn't
close.
really that close. Messenbrink was pretty much
Yeah,
dominating, but then he just
yeah,
shut down and it got scored on a bunch of times.
yep.
So
It was but probably one of the closer Mitchell Nessenbrink matches of last season, especially with someone as like unknown as Nico Ruiz.
right. So rounding out the last five here, Joey Bianchi had to throw a Little Rock guy out there. He's gonna be a senior. He was one of the key pieces to starting that Little Rock train national qualifier a year ago. And then honorable mentions: Tyler Lillard, Will Miller, Andrew Sparks, Cam Steed of Missouri, Tyler Lillard of Indiana, Will Miller, Appalachian State, and Andrew Sparks, Minnesota. Three-time national qualifier for Sparks. Two-time for Miller, one time for Lillard, zero time for Cam Steed, but he's just a sophomore, so we'll see.
I'm like super happy with one thing about this weight class is that you're seeing so many smaller schools up on this list. Utah Valley, Ohio, Little Rock, App State. This could be a big year for the small schools, and with all that we've seen with NIL and all this crazy, buying of wrestlers basically and transfer you this, it's awesome to see small schools can develop a guy that can still go on to be successful. And I hope Mitchell Messenberg wins the weight, but I also hope that some of these other guys from these lesser known wrestling schools, not the Penn State, not the Iowa, not the Michigan, can go on to have a really successful tournament and kind of do like we saw with Stanford, a few years ago, where one wrestler just kind of put them on their back. Shout out to Shane Griffith, by the way, with the black singlet back then. What a legend that was.
It's true. It's true. So drop a comment down below, 165-pound rankings. I think this is going to be the least controversial one just because, I mean, hey, maybe there's a freshman out there that can make an impact that we're not recognizing here. But I think this one's pretty clear cut. Sammy
Yeah.
Sasso is going to be an interesting story, regardless if he comes back or not, just being in that room. And I mean, he's listed on the roster. Um,
Yes.
so we'll see. Drop a comment down below. Yes, let's go Mets, baby. They're on the board. Let's
Let's
go
go Mets.
Mets.
It's all about the Mets, baby.
1-zip error by the Dodgers there. Pete getting it through. Yeah, let us know your comments down below. And thanks again for watching Cactus Wrestling.
Thanks for watching. We are Cactus Wrestling, and we'll see you next time on our next video.